Hello. Hello, everyone. This is Christian Shields here, founder of My Secret's Purpose. I am really excited for today's conversation. As you know, every time you come on this live, the goal is simply to get you closer to your purpose, to get you walking and moving a lot of that other stuff that may be in your way out of the way. So today I'm really excited because we are going to have the lovely Miss Denisha Monet on here, the whole black woman. And today we are going to talk about ending close friendships. Now, I'm really excited about this conversation because your girl has been through a lot. Okay? But I know I'm not the only one. I know that each of us have encountered relationships, friendships, hardships in so many different ways. We have come across different paths with people. We're gonna call them paths with people that may need to close and end at some point in time. And I know that's a little difficult to do sometimes, especially I'm just going to invite some people in, but I know it's difficult to do sometimes, especially when you all have had a long relationship. You all have been friends for a long time. Listen, it's so many different things and so many different reasons why things may end. If you're on here, go ahead and say hi, comment, let me know that you're in here. Let me know that you're in here. I'm just inviting some people right now. I want to be able to say hi to you though. Sorry, y'all got the nails all up in there. More bird. Okay, what's up, Ebony girl? I see you. Are you excited? What's one thing that I'm sorry, I lost my thought, but I'm back now. What's one thing that you would like to know about friendships when they're ending? I guess it's a conversation we are definitely going to have, but anyway, I keep hitting the room button. Okay. So Miss at the whole man is about to join us. Hey girl, hey.
Hey.
So I was trying to share out the video while we were getting everything settled, and also I just asked some people if they were coming on in to say hi to us or say something, so that we can know that they're here, so we can speak back. Yes, T, look, I'm 13. I'm 13.
It's actually just water in my teacup.
Well, you better drink. You better drink out the pot. Okay. All right. So, basically, I wanted to have this conversation today because I had hopped on Instagram and I had seen your post and you were talking about nobody is talking about ending friendships. Nobody is talking about this. And it stood out to me. It was it's like it was calling my name because all I could think about is man, all the friendships that ended in so many terrible ways. And all I could think about is what happens to us after a friendship ends, what happens to us. But before we get into all that jazz, I kind of want you to give a little background about yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I'll just start from, where I'm from because we always start there. My name is Denisha Jingles first, but I go by Denisha Monet. And I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved over to Baltimore a couple of years ago to receive my master's degree in counseling psychology. And that was my line of work for a couple of years. Eventually moved to New York. And my populations that I worked with, and just included, I was with what we call like general pop people who are having like issues with like relational issues, um, just everyday things, but then also worked with dual diagnosis, bipolar, schizophrenia, some very heavy stuff for a while. I decided to switch my career path, still within psychology, but a different trajectory, and started to do behavior analysis, which is up under the behavioral psychology discipline. So that's a little bit about me. I own my own behavioral health company right now, and I work with children, teens, and young adults who have social, emotional issues or problems that need to be dealt with. And that's me in a nutshell.
And then
And I like long walks on the beach, just in case you don't
long.
know.
Okay, I can dig it. I can definitely dig it. So tell us a little bit about what led up to you deciding that, this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, it was kind of like what I said, like a lot of us, we don't really talk about it, but a lot of us go through it. And I think I've been going through it for so long. And I was just like, how do we know what to do or like who do we turn to? And I think depending on the relationship, sometimes it takes a little bit more time and effort and energy to try to figure out what to do next. And we don't really have the blueprint. And I know in my line of work, it's really cool what I do because behavior analysis is like the subset that can help literally anybody with any issue as long as it's measurable in some type of way or observable. And so I help teenagers and kids and young adults with relational issues like how to make friends, how to be a good friend, how to show empathy, things like that. But yeah, we don't really have these conversations that often. I know for me, I've gone through like a few losses in the past couple of years that really took some time for me to like sit down and have to process very differently than things when I was younger. So I just made a post about it that was kind of like fusing together my own personal, but also what I know professionally and how to help move past loss because essentially it's loss and it's very similar to grief for
Mm.
some people.
Whew. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's
Okay.
get this because let's talk about some reasons that friendships may need to start leading up to ending. Let's talk about like some triggers, some indicators where you might be just being you might be being
Yeah.
used. You might be just adding extra trauma to your life. Toxic.
Mhm.
Love the word toxic, but let's talk about what some of those triggers are.
Yeah, well, one is very individual, right? Like we all have our own specific wants, needs, and desires from other people. And I think for some folks, it's like that's just very basic. Like if I'm not getting what I need out of this friendship, then that might be indicating that it might be time for us to leave. And then you have other folks who are going through some really tough situations with their friends and you see like borderline abuse happening within friendships. Like you have a friend that might, like have an issue, get drunk, curse you out, or whatever, and then it just seems like very draining or toxic, as a lot of people say. That might be an indication. Somebody that doesn't support you, and it feels very one-sided. Um, you might start to think that you are moving in different paths within your life, and maybe sometimes you have to leave people behind if they're not able to come with you. That could be a reason for ending friendships. And it could just be a simple disagreement. A lot of times people end friendships over disagreements and something that, blew up possibly out of proportion or not. And it was time for them to step away from the friendship. Conflict resolution is really key when those things happen. And unfortunately, a lot of us lack some of those skills. And it's
Well, let's
so,
talk about what some of those skills might be.
So with conflict resolution, one, that takes a lot because first you have to be willing and able to like sit someone down at a table. And not everyone's willing to do that. And especially when you are the person that has done the other person wrong, right? And it takes for you to put like pride and ego aside, but also to have some type of self perception that says, I did something that maybe hurt this person. And if it did hurt this person, then it might take for me to do something more to rectify the situation. And if you can't get there, then there might not be even a coming to Jesus moment or like, let's come to the table and resolve this. Both people need to be able to do that though. You need to be able to like sit down with the other individual and actually say what you need to get out of the situation. And a lot of us expect things to be resolved in different ways. Like, for example, I'm the type of person that if there's an issue, then I need an apology and I need change behavior, both. And some people just need change behavior. Some people don't need the apology. We can just pick up and move on. And that's why it's good for you to know who you're having the disagreement with. Because if you don't even know that, then you might have a harder time trying to mediate. Yeah.
Okay, so how would you, okay, because here's the thing. Most people are not, like, I know what you say yours are, you need apology and change behavior. Most people are not apologizing. They
Mm.
they they will come back into your life and act like nothing ever happened. They'll just act like they want to get back to shaking hands, hugs, kisses, and they act like nothing, like you didn't just hurt this person, like you didn't just say what you said, you didn't do what you did. So
Yeah.
let's talk around, like, how can you help a person kind of work through those feelings and emotions when this is what they're receiving from a person that has caused that damage?
Yeah. I think the most special thing about friendship is the grace that exists within it.
Mm,
Um, and I always like let people know that there is grace, but you don't have to be a doormat for people's abuse or problems. So like the first time there's an issue, I think for friends, you have to be able to extend that grace. Like even if it's you that was wronged, being able to one, it's self-advocacy for sure to advocate for what you need, but sit down with that person and say, this didn't sit well for me. And because you are my friend, and because that is what makes us friends, this love that we have for each other, this mutual respect and understanding that we have for one another, I'm going to talk to you about this. And I'm going into this conversation with the intent of X, Y, and Z. And so that's once again is you recognizing what you need from this situation before you even try to talk to them. Because if you're upset but there's no resolve to you because some people get upset and you can never go back to the way things were, right? Like, I'm going to always hold this over your head. So, unfortunately, if you're not able to have that grace for your friendship, then that might be a barrier to actually moving on because you can't truly move on if you're continuously holding whatever that person did to you in the past. But let's say you have been able to sit down with them, let them know your needs, and it was supposedly well received. At that point, you both have a responsibility to change your behavior, right? So, one, the person who was wrong has a responsibility to continue to be with that person in friendship, but that person who wronged you has a responsibility to make sure that you don't get back to this spot again based on what happened in the initial situation. But once it becomes a pattern, it might be time to depart. And once again, you don't have to be a doormat for anyone else's issues or abuse. And like everyone deserves grace and everyone deserves to have some sense of love and understanding because none of us are going to be right 100% of the time. So I can't imagine having a friend that never sat me down and said, hey, Denisha, I didn't like when you did this. But as a friend who loves and understands you, I want to make sure that we don't get to this situation or the same situation again in the future.
wow.
That was to answer your question. That was kind of roundabout.
No, I think it's great that you give more with it. You know, you give more context. Um, one of the, I can say that one of the biggest problems, I'm just talking about like my personal friendships and things that have ended, is never, never been given the Yeah, never been given the opportunity to have a conversation. You know, it's like a lot of people, when my friendships or something end, they're very reactive. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you may not, I may not ever have this conversation with you, but you're gonna feel my energy. You're gonna feel my
Yeah.
room. You're gonna feel, and I may not be using correct terms when I say spiritual abuse in some way. Like it may not,
Mm-hmm.
but it's almost like an energy displacement that, like, you're gonna get the silent treatment. I'm not even gonna acknowledge you. So these are things that I know that I've experienced from people, and I know that
Yeah.
it was difficult for me to kind of um it was difficult for me to kind of see those people the same again, because in one place I thought we had a certain level. You know, I had an expectation set, like we can talk about this, we can have this conversation, but that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
the case. And I think that, you know, dealing with that, like for years, it had came to a place where it was like, okay, I had to figure out, how do I focus on bringing myself back so that even if I still had to be in a place where these people would be, I could still be in alignment, and like they won't disturb my peace or energy. So what is like a framework or a guide to help someone so that it may not take, so it doesn't take them 2 years like it, or years like it took me.
Yeah. I think, I mean, you make a perfect point right there. And I was smiling through it because I definitely am and have been that person that's like, when I'm upset, I will shut down and won't talk to you, right? And that's like a level of growth that has to take place within myself. But it also depends on the relationship, right? And we talked about that part. That's where like that friendship comes in, because there is that grace that is extended between. Um, and for me personally, being one of those people that would shut you out, ice you out. It one takes the other person sometimes to be like, hey, Denisha, what's going on? Like, can you sit down with me? And I'm just being fully transparent and vulnerable with that. Now when it comes to like best friends though, and you know, because tonight we're talking about close friends, when it comes to having a close friend, um, and being able to deal with folks that you consider your friend, and then they kind of just like said, forget it. I did you wrong. I don't care. And I'm moving on without you. Um, I've been through that. And I can't personally say that that's something that I would do to my close friends, period. It's something that I've done to associates for sure, and still working on it to be better. But as a close friend, it hurts, and like it feels like we learned about the stages of grief. Like we know about grief in terms of like when somebody actually physically passes on, right? But it feels like grief the same way when you're just like cut from the cord from the person or the people that you consider to be extremely close with, and you no longer have that outlet. And the things that you could do, one, and I talked about it on the initial post, is acceptance is huge, but there's a lot of work that happens before acceptance, right? Like the stages of grief, I mean, the first one is shock. Like you're shocked, you probably expected more from that person, you probably wanted more, and then you probably move from, you know, being shocked to being extremely sad about the situation, or wanting to bargain and like go back on your own boundaries. Like if that person disrespected you, or, you know, truly hurt your feelings in a way that they saw you as less than who you were, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you probably want to, you know, go and still bargain with them and be back in the friendship just for the sake of the friendship, because I don't want this to end. And we've had so much commonality for so long, and this can't be the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get past those stages, being able to just acknowledge, accept, like you have had such a great run with this person. You have a lot of history and backstory, and you can still look back on it and say, this was beautiful. I love the time that we spend together. I have friends that I'm no longer friends with, and I see old pictures, and I remember those days, and that's okay. And it's okay for me to say, and I still miss them. And I still wish they were different, but they will not be different. And that's the part of accepting everything that comes with it. Because it's really easy to try to shut people off and say, well, you know, forget them. They weren't that great of a friend to me anyway, or they're this terrible person, or do you remember when they did this? But that's not likely the truth. Like you were friends with them for a reason. Um, And so being able to recognize that um, will help you to accept that the past is gone. Yeah.
Mm, that's really beautiful. I think that we needed to hear like the word of acceptance, and like that word to me it just kind of like sends off different like sounds of things that expand beyond just like what I can see, because there's an internal acceptance that has to take place, because what
Mm-hmm.
I do know is that if you don't accept internally, then you will carry that in that ill like that ill intent and feeling into every conversation or when you meet new people and you don't give
Mm-hmm.
them that opportunity. So what would you say would be some great ways to make sure that we manage that properly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, one, I would say after something ends, recognize what contributed to that ending. That's probably telling you what could contribute to something else ending for you. Um, and so that's going to help you establish one, your boundaries, but then also help you establish what you might need to work on for yourself before you meet somebody else and end up in the same situation again. Because the point of life is really to like learn from it, learn from the situations that we've gone through. Um, and once you meet new people, it really should be I'm meeting you fresh, right? We can't see people as old players in our life or old chapters in our life. You are starting something new here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times if people start to sit with these feelings and they be like, my gut, my intuition told me like I couldn't really vibe with this person. It's like, was it really your intuition? Or was it something that was like, this happened to me before and I'm afraid that it's going to happen again. So I'm going to avoid this situation with all of me. It's not really your gut, it's literally you're remembering that there's something about this person, or maybe something seems familiar, or from the past situation, this was a warning sign to me and I won't go forward anymore because of that warning sign. And so I'm going to work overtime to protect myself. And um, and sometimes that's useful, and other times it's not. Other times we're literally just running the race back and forth of like trying to avoid the hard stuff. And
Mm,
life is not like that. You're not going to be able to avoid all the hard things. So it's best to take the lessons from them as much as possible and then try to use them with the next person or for yourself in a positive way. Um, yeah.
so I'm loving all of this, and I know that we have some viewers on here. So I do want to like make sure that if anyone had any questions at the time, that you could comment your questions so that we can answer them. Are you able to see the questions on your end or comments?
I don't see any question, but I see comments, and the last one says yes, no bashing them after the season is over. I can't say like enough to that. That's very true. Especially sometimes you have mutual friends in common, or sometimes you want to tell everything to social media, especially when they saw you and your friend and all the pictures and all the videos together. And let me tell you how what this person did exactly to me. Some things you really need to keep close to you. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't need to know what happened between you two. You don't know how it's going to end. You could actually rectify the situation
Yeah.
months or years later, but I can guarantee you won't be able to do that if you told everybody the ins and outs of what's happening. But I've had situations where we have mutual friends in common, and that mutual friendship with other people is not going to end. And I can't expect that to, right? And so that means
Mm,
I'm not calling our mutual girlfriends like, oh, I can't believe that you're still, hanging out with such and such, and I don't like whatever. Like, you have to allow people the ability to move on because
mm,
whoever you're in that friendship with, they're still a person too. They still have growth to do, and just wanting the best for them, even if you cannot be physically near them or with them anymore. So I agree at all. Like, keep the batching to a minimum. Don't get me wrong, like you can still talk to your other friends if you have a problem, because sometimes we need that outlet to like kind of just let it all out. Like, I can't believe this happened to me, but there's no need to like bash the other person. I don't see any questions though.
that's
So if you see any questions.
I don't see any at this time either. But if you do have just so happen to watch this video on replay, thank you for watching. And you can still post your comments because you have access to be able to come back with the at whole black woman. She can comment and answer your questions that way. And this is a quick plug. Make sure you all are following at the whole black woman so you can continue to get this beautiful knowledge about behavior change, as it is something that we need not only just for ourselves personally, because remember the goal is not changing other people, it's about changing ourselves, and that
Hmm.
turn changes what environments are around us. But I do see something, another question just came in from Alicia. It says, what about when the season ends and in the future one person wants to reconnect and the other doesn't?
Yeah, that's heavy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and sometimes it's like that. And sometimes it's I mean, the fact that you're able to reach or extend an arm to that person does not mean that they have to give it right back, right? And so that's part of like not feeling entitled to someone else's. Oh, no sorries. No,
oh,
but not feeling entitled. The other person has to fully forgive you or welcome you back in their life. You would hope so. And I would, that probably is the intent for trying to reconnect maybe years later. But the other person has the right to say, this just will not work for me. But in that conversation, it would be good to ask questions like, what can I do to make sure we could like have another connection, or is there anything that I could do? And if that person tells you, well, this is what I would need in order to have a friendship with you, then you can make that decision to like not necessarily adhere to it, but listen to it and figure out what you can do for yourself. Because if that person is saying we had to end because, you were getting drunk way too much and it was inhibiting our relationship, and that's not an avenue that you're willing to explore for yourself, recognizing reality. Sometimes we depart from reality and we wish
right.
things could be so different, and we agree to things that we know is impossible for ourselves. So if you find yourself getting in that situation just to reconnect, um, honesty has to set in for you. Like, I honestly can't do this. But recognizing that no, you're not owed that ability to make the situation better sometimes, and it happens. Some people fully say they're finished depending on the severity of the issue. And if that's you, just going forward with love still in your heart, I guess, for that person, because obviously if you wanted to rectify, you still had love in your heart for that person. And once again, acceptance that the past is not going to come back around again, and that season and that relationship is over.
Mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The hardest thing about what you just said is accepting that even though you feel like it's time and you want to make that change, the other
Mhm.
person, they might not be ready. And that's still a part of that acceptance part. Like, I gotta accept this. You might not be ready. And
Mhm.
even though you try to reconnect and it wasn't time, that still doesn't mean, like, still stay pleasant. I just want to kind of put that out there. Like,
Mhm.
still remain pleasant, be yourself, and don't allow that like the negative feelings that come along with not getting the resolution that you wanted at that time to change how you present yourself in different environments. You still want to make
Yeah.
sure that you are fully your changed self in that moment. Because
Yeah.
you had mentioned something about the grief process of like just wanting to go back and have it. You had mentioned just having the desire to have it because it's something that's broken. But
Mhm.
you got to be mindful of, like, are you just grieving the friendship, or
Mhm.
is this a friendship that is valuable and and,
Mhm.
and worth having?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you. So with that too, it's like you said a word, and the first thing that came to my mind was like rejection, right? Like what happens when you're rejected. And for some folks out there, for a lot of people, rejection is a hard spot. Like, who wants to be rejected, whether it's from other people, jobs, your family members, it doesn't matter. Um, and so being able to sit with like I didn't get what I needed or didn't get what I wanted. I would say that I didn't get what I wanted. I felt rejected. And just because I felt rejected does not mean I have to lash out or try to get even or make this person feel bad for protecting themselves, right? And so this does not have to be like you might have been rejected in the past, but you don't have to use the same like behavior to protect yourself in that way. Like you can choose a new outlet, you can choose a different route to take. And so, yeah, talking to yourself a little bit and saying like this really hurts, and we don't like to feel hurt. Like I said it before, like people really love to go towards positivity because positivity feels great. Like who we all love to have great days. Positivity every day, great days every day is not possible, right? Happiness is a feeling that we have just like sadness, hurt, anger, grief, frustration, being excited, surprise. Like those are all emotions. And guess what? They all come and go. So your emotions, anger is going to come just like your emotion of happiness is going to come and go as well. So you don't have to lash out. You can sit with it, recognize it, and know that a new moment is going to come soon. And this feels tough right now. I can acknowledge it. And then when the happiness comes, I can acknowledge that as well and move on with it. And so, yeah, that's what I have for folks that might feel rejected from old friends. It's okay to feel that way. Acknowledge it. You don't have to run from it. You don't have to curse them out because they didn't want to be friends with you
Yeah.
anymore. Um, and you don't have to feel bad. Like, you don't have to get down and depressed about yourself either. Like, like I'm the most horrible person in the world. Like, you messed up. Recognize that. You got to have grace with yourself. Like, you messed up. You didn't have to be perfect. I hope that you could do better in the next situation that you have with a new friend. Once you recognize the actual consequences of your behavior, use it and do better for the people that's going to be in your life in the next chapter.
Wow. And in what ways, if someone is still struggling with this, in what ways would you know, tell them to go get some help, get some support behind you being able
Yeah.
to process this?
Mm-hmm. Um, you, if you are, okay, so I'm going to try not to like go everywhere because I have my thoughts about, to what level we need or what level of help or care. But at any point, like a therapist is there for you for anything. So if you just feel like this is something I need to talk to somebody about it, and I mentioned earlier, like having mutual friends, and maybe the mutual friends are the only friends you had. You can't really talk to them about it. You might need to go talk to a therapist. Um, or it might be a little bit more heavy for you than that, right? You might find yourself like really hard on the situation, on what happened. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to see nobody. Like, and it's probably borderline depression or some type of like. And one thing that we don't talk about a lot either, because folks don't have like an acumen into mental health, is like adjustment disorder. Like, how do you adjust past like stressing events, like things that are stressors to you? And so you could be really dealing with some adjustment issues. But even if you're not, um, that person, the therapist, is going to be there for you for just like, hey, I had a situation with this person and I'm just not feeling good about it, versus like, I'm the most terrible person ever. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. No one likes me. I hate everyone too. They're going to be there for you for whatever side of the scale that you lie on. Anywhere in the middle, doesn't matter. They're going to meet you where you're at. And so I would suggest it if whenever you feel like you need it. And if it gets to the extreme, you'll definitely feel like you need it. Like, who will you talk to? Who will you run to at that point? And if you need like some type of assistance, getting help. Um, if you have insurance, like go on the website and see if there are any people in network that could be your therapist. Psychology Today, if you're looking for like a Black or brown therapist, there are outlets out there, like Therapy for Brown Girls, that could help you like find a therapist that looks like you. The Mental Health Alliance, the Black Mental Health Alliance, or the Black Psychologists Association of Black Psychologists could help you also find one as well.
Wow, that's beautiful. Let me check these comments. Okay, so we don't have any new comments at this moment. So we will be wrapping up the live soon. So I want to make sure that if you have questions, you're on this live. First, do us a favor while you all are watching. Just share this live out. Um, to your timelines, because I definitely know that there is someone that had an intention to watch it and couldn't make it today, but it's definitely needed because our communities need to heal. We need to heal so that we could be better people. So definitely share this out for us. But does anyone have any last questions as we prepare to wrap this one up?
And while you're doing that, Christian, if I just want to like, because I made a secondary post because you mentioned earlier like people don't apologize, and so I made a post about what happens like when you're the person who has wronged your friend, like your close friend. How do you
Yeah.
move on, and like how do you rectify? And I've said rectify so many times today, but like how do you make the situation better? And then I just like gave like three quick things, and obviously it's very individualized. It depends on the relationship that you have with that person, but very just a few tips is like, one, you acknowledge that something went wrong. Like that's the first step, is acknowledge that you might have really created a situation that hurt the individual that you care about. And this comes down to values, like the person that you say that you value. And if this person is of value to you, then you want to move in alignment with what you say you care about or who you say you care about. And so number one step is to acknowledge that something happened, to sever something within the relationship. And once you do that, um, speaking on it. Some people need time, right? And so I am one of those people. At times I need space. Like, give me a day. But I also am one of those people that has an expiration date. Like, if you wait too long, then I've moved on with my life. And so the question that was there about like what happens if you want to reconnect after a couple of years, I am very much that person. Like, that apology should have came like years ago, right? But figure out what that other person needs from you. Some people need years. Some people need a month or a day to just calm down. And if you know that's true of your friend, allow them the opportunity to calm down, and then invite them to have a seat. And at that point, it's your responsibility to say, I acknowledge what I did. I am sorry. What do you need from me to move on? And so allow the other person to tell you, I need change behavior. I need you to go on Facebook and tell everybody else how. No, I'm joking. If anyone does that, that's like, that's not really a serious apology. But some people need more from you. And so figuring out what that actually is. And third, just recognizing that you don't want to create a dynamic within your friendship where you do something and they're constantly having to forgive you for those same things over and over again. So change behavior is absolutely necessary, because that we can funnel down a downward spiral into cycles of abuse between friendships, and that happens unfortunately with certain folks. And you want to make sure, if you are a person that say you care about your friend, that you don't want to start that cycle with them. So do what you say you're going to do. If you sit down with them and you apologize, feel that apology, recognize what you did, and actually change for the next time. Figure out what you need to do, and that takes self-work. That takes self-work to know that sometimes our stuff is not 100%. Like, we do things wrong and we hurt other people's feelings, and we have to do better and do it. Actually do it. figure out what you need to do by listening to the person, and also listening to yourself. So I just wanted to give that. It does not have to be the end of the world. Conflict does not have to be the end of the world. You can talk to your friend, um, and let them know that you feel really terrible about what happened, that you might be embarrassed, that you might be, really ashamed and sad. And then you also feel that you can do better. And I'm
So
pretty sure your friend would appreciate that from you.
somebody
Oh, I
said,
got
yes. Tabitha says, what happens when they keep bringing up the past?
I touched on that a little earlier. The person that felt wrong has to be able to sit down in that situation too and tell you honestly and truthfully if they can move past it. Because the last thing both parties need is to have that cloud hanging over their head in the friendship and like constantly bringing up, like, well, you did this. So now what? And like that, and that starts to have, there's like a power play that happens there too. Like, because remember that one time? Yeah. So do what I need you to do going forward. And so I think I mentioned earlier about dynamics. That's part of the dynamic. If that person is continuously bringing up the past, then there is a dynamic established there that might not indicate you have a long future together. Um, you know, it's like if you are going to accept an apology, hear the apology and move forward. That's the purpose of an apology. Now, if the person gives you an apology and continues to do the same thing, then it's not necessarily bringing up the past, it's bringing up the pattern of behavior that shows itself again. But if you have done the work, if that person has done the work to make the changes that or whatever they did that irritated you or like really rubbed you the wrong way, if they've made those changes and you're continuously bringing it up, then unfortunately the other person, and like Tabitha said, then I want to take my apology back and act brand new, the other person's going to shut down because now you're saying there's nothing that you can do that's going to make the situation better for me because I messed up once. And I said it earlier too, grace is super important in friendships. And
Yeah,
hopefully you have some type of grace, as long as it's not an established pattern of behavior. Because if it's that case, that I want people to do well for themselves, like take care of yourself. And just sometimes you have to move out. But if it's a one-off situation with somebody that you say that you care about as a close friend of yours, like have some grace, sit down with that person, take the time you need if you need it, but sit down with that person and say, because I love you, I'm going to tell you why this upset me. And because I love you, I'm going to give you an opportunity, hopefully, for us to do better in the future together. And we're all learning each other as we're going along. So it could be the first time you ever have a conflict with a person that you really don't know. Like you don't know people until you have an issue with them.
yeah.
Period. You don't know how to react until you have an issue with them. And people tell you a lot about themselves when you have an issue with them. And so, or vice versa. I tell people a lot when I have an issue with them. So, but once you have that conflict, take that information, use it. Like you're gonna know now, like if I do something wrong to my friend, she is going to like blow up or she's going to shut down. And some people shut down and some people go up. And knowing like where they fall on that line, will help you, and it'll help you figure out what you need um, to do it better next time. But yeah, yeah, I can't say it enough. Like if somebody's holding the past over you, like good luck with that. I don't, they still have self work for themselves to do as well.
I'm glad you just said that because that was definitely going to be a contribution I had to say. If someone is continually like holding up things above you, she said they stop talking to you. Ex, I'm going to say this is Christian just saying this. I would say now it's not about them anymore, it's about you.
Mm-hmm.
That point, it's time for you to start just accepting it and preparing yourself to like end that. Let that be what it is. It wrap that up, find out what it is that you keep seeking in them to have, what is causing you to want to gravitate towards that, because now the work is for you to do, and accepting what it is and how you are being treated in that moment, so that you are
Mhm.
able to start moving forward. And you can see, you can start being able to gravitate more towards more positive ways of viewing friendships. You can start looking for different wants. You'll like start
Mhm.
looking for different needs, because that is clearly not an example of a relationship, like a friendship that you would want to keep long standing. To constantly go through that is wear and tear on
Mhm.
who you are as a person. It's wear and tear on your kindness, your peace. Like it's wear and tear on your desires, your needs, your values, like those foundational pieces of you. That that rips at that. And so it's time for you to be a better manager of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And recognizing that, and that's part of the boundaries that we all build up for ourselves. We used to call them protective factors. Um, what, Tabitha? Because you're bored. Um, but yeah, we these are protective factors, and you have to protect yourself, like, and to know what you deserve at the end of the day. And um, unfortunately, you don't deserve that repeated cycle of like not knowing if what you're doing is ever going to be good enough or right, or it's exactly what that person wants out of you, right? And so, um, advocating for yourself in that way to say, I guess this just is not working. And I loved you, or I love you, because that could still happen too. Friendships end and you still love that person. That does not go away. It might not go away for you. And for some people it does. But just say, I loved you, or I love you. But I feel like we are not moving. We're not moving. We're stagnant. And if your friendship is now stagnant, um, then you deserve the right to say, I need more, and actually stand on that.
Yeah. Now she said, "You right, cause I'm getting mad. They got me." Girl, look, I feel you. I feel you in your comments. 'Cause look, it then
Um,
that is definitely one of the things. I know you guys just so like we said, like it's time for you to take care of you,
yeah.
because if you don't, like those feelings, those triggers, they don't go away easily. Like they just don't. I
Mhm.
wish you could like sleep and wake up the next morning and be like, ah. But what I have noticed, Denisha, is like a lot of people who are still mad at this situation, like it's unresolved within them. We will
Yeah.
find ourselves, acting out in tendencies that we're really just hurt. Like it's just hurt that we
Yeah.
haven't necessarily dealt with or addressed. So what are some ways that if we are there and in that place, like how do we work through that?
Well, to work through the anger, um, one, I would say you got to do what like feels good for you, like how whatever you have. There's so much strength within us, right? And we look for other people to kind of like tell us what to do, but we know a lot of times what we need, like, and we measure that based on like the immediate consequence of doing this certain thing. And so I say do the things that feel good to you, that take care of you from the inside and out, to help you mediate that anger. But then also knowing how you mediate anger. Like some people write, and some people, listen to music. Some people read, some people meditate. Knowing those things that could help you to get past that anger. And other times it just takes time. Some people have to confront in order to make them feel good. Like there are people that have to get the last words. Like I gotta curse you out because you made me feel bad, and that's gonna make me feel good. But is that always useful? And the likely answer is useful for you, which is why you're doing it, I'm sure. But it's probably not useful for the situation. But so figuring out what you need to do that's useful for you, and also useful for like what actually needs to happen out of this situation. Ask yourself that. If what needs to happen from this situation is that you need to move on, then that's what your behaviors need to align according to that. I need to move on. So you're going to do things that get you closer to that versus things that move you further away from that. So if you cursing somebody out, it's safe to say that you are no closer to your desire to move on, right? Because now you probably just open up Pandora's box and they got to get another word in. Um, so yeah, I would say do the things that's going to move you closer to what you really need out of the situation. And if that's closure, figuring out what that looks like for you. And sometimes that is a conversation and other times it's not. Other times it's not. Other times it's just, I'm gonna sit with these feelings. I'm gonna miss this old friend. I'm gonna, remember all the times that we had. But then also I'm gonna do these other things and get over it, or move past it. Tabitha is totally serious when she says freestyling while drunk helps her because I know her in person and she's a good rapper. But she's also my friend in a mess, who I love so much.
I think there's no judgment. Like, if that hurts, girl, do what you do. That's how I
She's a
feel.
good rapper.
You gotta figure out what's at the end of the day, it's over. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we talking about. We talking about ending close friendships. So at the end of the day, it's done. You know, I could be cheering for you and rooting for you and never show up. You feel me? Like I'm, you know, you could be mentioned in my prayer life, but I never like let you know. So those things are real. Those happen. And at the end of the day, when it's over, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta find that.
Yeah.
You gotta find that.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. And I think that is a part of peace too, though. You just said that. Being able to still want the best for that person. Like, that's peace. And that tells you that you are not truly harboring whatever happened between you all. Because if you could still look at that person and say, I might not talk to you, I may not ever be able to see you again, right? Like I may not ever be able to talk to you again. But I definitely want the best for you. I don't want anybody to screw you over in the future. Um, like I don't even need you to know that, but I want and need for you to still be good in your own life, in your own way. And like that's a peaceful way of thinking towards that friendship. And that's probably gonna tell you that you've reached some point of closure with that person. I don't hate you. We just can't be friends.
With a
So
smile. Happy.
with a smile.
With a smile.
We got 2 more time.
You said,
I'm going on a trip with a hater friend soon, and I feel like she's gonna act funny, but I got a deal on the trip. Should I prepare myself? Yeah. All of this is self work too. Like you got to figure out what you need to do, especially if you're going with a group of friends and you don't want to be that, like, you don't want to add more to it. Like if you already feel like there's going to be tension, that's, part of the other person, what they're bringing, then you're still responsible for your actions. You're still responsible for how you move forward with them acting funny towards you too. Do you escalate or just do you de-escalate or do you just do nothing? And so you can like try to make that decision for yourself, but I definitely feel like you're going to have to prepare yourself mentally and also think about what you need to do behaviorally. Like if this person starts to act funny and you're out having a good time drinking, what do you need to do to maintain the sanctity of the environment? Do you need to step away, like go take a moment? Do you need to call your home girl? Do you need to, you know go get a drink at the bar by yourself? Like figure out what you have to do in order to be okay in the trip. I feel like the comments just went. Let me read them. Okay. I
you go
recently
ahead.
cut off a close friend. Okay. I recently just cut off a close friend, but I'm done with them. And like, nah, y'all, I can't look at them and want the best at this time. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you're done, sis.
Yeah.
And when you're done. Um, I will say this too, and this is just something that I have to work on too with myself, and I talked about it earlier, is just like being able to resolve conflict that is like kind of like a one-time thing. Like we all need to be able to, that's an adult trait, right? Like being able to resolve some type of conflict. And as long as you're not physically abused, emotionally berated or anything by that person, and you're not unsafe, then there is probably some ability to utilize conflict resolution skills. And so if you feel wronged and this is a close friend of yours and you still value them, once again, using the word value, if this is a person that you love and value, um, doing them some justice too and sitting down with them and saying this didn't sit well with me. But if it's continual, yeah, sometimes you're just done. Sometimes people can't go back. And that's reality. And acceptance has to happen on both sides of the coin.
Mm.
Yeah.
Jinx, you owe me a soda. Oh man.
Somebody said, Tabitha said, make me a list. Tabitha, you want to list the things that you could do behaviorally, like if you get upset on the trip to take care of yourself? I got you.
Look, I'm gonna tell y'all some of the things that I have done really quick. Like, so if it's somebody like, even if they're like on my Facebook, like I have completely like blocked. I have disconnected. I'm one of those people. If I'm done, I'm not Googling you. I'm not searching you. I'm not. I mean, when I tell you that
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's no need for me to send you any there's no need for verbals, like
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
strictly non-verbal for me moving forward. um and yeah, if you at the point of no return, like you are really trying to, like, I'm gonna call it excommunicate, right? If you're gonna like really try to
Mm-hmm.
take yourself away from that person's life and you are seriously through, you like, now this is when you are done, I think. Like you make sure that you sever all ties. But if it's something that you just mad, like I don't recommend you like doing stuff when you mad. Like cool off first,
Yep.
make sure you still watch what you say, because I words hold power. Whoever says sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never
They
hurt me. It's
lie.
a whole
They lie.
lie, because words have hurt worse than a stick popping up and tapping the back of my leg. Like seriously. So if you block,
Mm-hmm.
deleted everything, then like I said, you still got to check what state of mind that you're in. You still want, if you are done, then you are taking the necessary steps to prepare yourself to enter into your healing or enter into whatever the next phase is for you. But that's when you done. But like I said,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For
when
me,
I'm done.
yeah. So I'm not doing anybody. I'm like really like, and that's the ego thing too. It's like I don't want people to like, you're not gonna get me. Like, you know what I mean? Ego, pride. But I do unfollow. I don't see anything on my page. We still might be friends on Facebook. We still might be friends on Instagram, Snapchat, but you won't, I'm not watching your stuff. I'm not checking your page. Everything is unfollowed and it's done. So it's really the same way. It's just like sometimes, and if any of my old friends are watching this, they're like, oh, okay, that's why. But yeah, I'm friends with all of them, but they just don't see it. Like, I don't need you. Don't want to kick it with you either. None of that.
And it's
Yeah.
okay. Like it is okay to be done. It's okay to end friendships. Like I think that's the biggest thing coming from today is understanding that that is okay. That's all right. You can
Mm-hmm.
do that. You don't have to hold on to friendships hoping that something is going to change. You don't. And this was the big one that someone had brought to my attention. Y'all, this may step on some of y'all toes, but I think we should still talk about this. Like spiritual people, like overly spiritual, and
Mm-hmm.
like, how can I say this? I really want to figure out how to say this. Like overly spiritual, and they will like throw like anything at you to try to make sure that they would like manipulate the situation to try to make sure it works out in their favor. They would hate you up front and then stab you in the back and then still spew on you. Like, I think someone had asked, like, how do you deal with people who are like these heavy spiritual people and believers, but are so two-faced and cannot be trusted? Like, and you know you need to cut it off, but they try to make you feel bad, not only for that, but they always try to throw God in the mix. Like, how do you
Mm.
deal with that?
Mm, that's tough. Look, some people don't connect for whatever reason. You could just not connect with somebody, and it sounds like there's a disconnect up there, like spiritually, right?
Yeah.
You might have different belief systems, and that's cool too. But the belief systems might not be anything that you align yourself with. Um, get out of the gymnastics that can occur through that. Like, you know how you like be trying to like bend yourself and like figure out like how can I come to your side of things and I hear you, but this don't make sense. Like realistically, logically, it don't make sense to me. Um, so I would say do that and then just recognize like, yo, you don't have to believe the same thing. You don't have to think the same thing. You can let them do their back bends all they want, and you can decide that
Even
I'm not
if
showing up to the
they
gym
say
today.
no, look, even if they say, um, you that's not Christ like.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
Look, I would just say, like,
That's not
if you have a friend and you have different views, and it sounds like it's more of a problem to the other person than it was to you, right? Because like for some reason, and that's I think spirituality gets hard because people feel, um, I'm looking for the word here, but people feel like you're kind of like messing up their walk in a sense, right? Or
mm,
they feel what Alicia, like help me think of the word because you're here right now, but like you're like getting in the way of my relationship with God, essentially. And if they feel that way about you and you not willing to like do things according to whatever they feel like is Christ like, then
mm,
you're probably in your season. Because you don't have to change according to fit someone else's spiritual beliefs. Like they have a right to think how they want to think in terms of like who they believe in and how they think people should interact or act out in the world. So let them have it. That's them. And people really need to learn how to like mind their business in that sense. I personally think so. Like you don't have to do it, those things. Like let that be your own impeding my walk with God. Okay, yes. But let that be your own thing. Like if you believe this is not Christ-like, then guess what? God said he gonna deal with you when you get there, not deal with me and you at the same time. Like, no, go forth and prosper, do what you need to do. And I'm gonna go forth and prosper and do what I need to do. If your spiritual differences are getting in the way of your friendship, um, then that's probably saying something about where y'all need to go next. I have friends that have different spiritual beliefs than me, or they might be more Christian than me. Um, and I do things and say things very differently than them. But if we can't respect each other and respect that we're going to be who we need to be for
mm,
ourselves, um, then we need to move on. So
mm.
that's all I
That's a
have to say with that.
that's healthy.
It has to
That
be
is
mutually
really healthy.
respected, right?
I like
You
that.
gotta
That
have
is
it. I don't care what you believe
healthy.
in, but respect me. So
Period. Boo. I tell folks all
so
the time, whatever message you got, I didn't sow despite your thought you can feel. That's how and ever I'm good, love, and joy. Okay.
yes. Feel how you feel. Go ahead.
Period.
Go ahead.
So I think
Period.
the
Like,
things that like we take away here from today is like use your voice, use your words, say what needs to be said. If it's not a good time. It's not a good time. If you're not accepting it, then don't accept it. If you want to move on, then move on. Like, and then
Mm-hmm.
do what you said you're gonna do.
Yeah, move on. Pay attention to the signs too, man. Some friendships end well before they end, and you missed them.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
so pay attention to
oh.
those. Like if you feel like you can't trust that friend, you can't tell them your business. And that's one thing I didn't realize about friendships until much later on in life. Like I'm naturally secretive, right? And not
Yeah.
secretive as in sneaky, but just secretive as I don't share too much about myself in general. But if the reason that you're doing that with a specific friend is because you cannot trust that they're going to keep what you told them to themselves, then that's telling you something about the friendship. Or you all are just, you mentioned spirituality, but like common interest comes up a lot. Like, what do you do with your friend? And one of the most important things, like, you don't have to do everything with your friends, but if you can't do anything with your friend except for like, this one specific thing, but you need more out of this friendship, then that's probably telling you that you probably need to move on from that friendship or think about it a little differently, right? Because we have some friends, we can only go to the mall with them. We have other friends that we could call and tell all our secrets to. We have
Mhm.
other friends that we go to music concerts and festivals with. But the problem becomes with if you feel like you need more from that friendship that you're not getting, but you cannot get. Like this is what you guys have established. So that's probably telling you that there needs to be some type of severance to that. Um, I've had situations where folks like will have outings or whatever with their friends, or like their friend gets upset and they haven't learned like resolution skills, like how to calm themselves down, and they like berate you or whatever. Like if you're having like those abusive type things, it's telling you you need to move on. And so I just said all that to say, just like sometimes you have to listen to the signs. They're in front of you. Sometimes we were moving on well before we know it, and we needed to close the chapter and we decided not to. And then it took like a big disagreement to just end it all in front of you. And you can, if you start seeing those signs, you can have a conversation right then and there. Because sometimes people are not mind readers. They won't know what you need until you tell them. So if you are wanting something else out of that friendship, talk to them, like tell them like, hey, I felt this way when I needed you to show up and you didn't, and I was expecting that from you. And they might say, you know what, girl, I just thought we was cool to hang out and go get drinks with. Like I didn't know that, I was like your support system or whatever. And but y'all can have that conversation, and maybe they just say like, oh, I didn't even recognize that I wasn't being supportive of you, and I'm gonna do better. And then they might. And so when you realize those signs are happening, you feel unsupported, you feel like it's one-sided, you're doing everything for the friendship, always calling them, always texting them, always checking on them. If they need anything, they know that they're good, but if you need anything, you're not good. Um, you finding your secrets, from another friend that you didn't tell anything to, talk to that person right then and there. Don't wait till it blows up. Because sometimes that's an issue too. Like you let everything fester, and then that one last thing is like, and this is it, and forget you forever. And it's like you probably could have remedied the situation had you talked about it prior. But yeah, recognize, talk about it. Don't let it get to the point of no return if it doesn't have to get there. But if it does get there, once again, we just talked about it. You just gotta accept and move on. Oh, yeah. Somebody made a comment too on my page. I want to say this. I feel like I'm rambling now, but somebody did make
Oh,
the comment, and it was useful, um, that to recognize that sometimes friendships come back around. And I think the way that you end that friendship the first time will affect or impact like if that friendship is going to come back around. If
yes.
you left the friendship and was telling everybody that you hate them, or you were like cursing them out, you're probably not gonna get another friendship with that person. But sometimes people do make up. And it could be a year later, it could be years later. They both grew from the situation, and then were able to come back as two new people or two partly new people and make the friendship work. And so being open for that, if it does happen for you, is useful. But recognizing how you act the first time around will have its consequences later. Because I can't imagine ever being friends with a person who told all my secrets the moment that we fell out. or, curse me out the moment we had a disagreement. Like, so that could be the situation. So be mindful.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
good. Be mindful. Mind your business. We getting all these nuggets today. Mind your business, everybody. And be mindful, be respectful, give your apology if it's your turn to give an apology. Own that. That's yours to give.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, okay, and if you decide you want to block them, then block them. If you decide you want to unblock them, whenever you enter into your place of healing or however, then unblock them. Just monitor your motives
Mm-hmm.
and be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like really grow and be self-aware of who you are becoming.
Yeah. Yeah. The best thing you can do is ask yourself in a situation, what am I getting out of this? Our behaviors are maintained by the consequences that follow. So what am I getting out of this? What actually happened in this situation? What did I gain? What did I lose? And that's
Mm,
going to tell you how to act in the future, because that's how our behavior works in the first place. So use that, and actually just ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? And if this is what you wanted to get out of it, you're going to do that same behavior again. But if this is not what you wanted out of it, you're going to change. You're going to change your behavior based on that.
wow, that's beautiful. Okay, so we're getting ready to prepare to wrap up, everybody. I do want
Yeah.
to thank you, Miss At Whole Black Woman, for coming on here and sharing your knowledge about this behavior change, especially from the perspective of ending close friendships. And I think that is something that I think you all can go back and watch this live over and over again and work through some things and process through them. But so I do want to thank you for joining. I really do appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. This is fun. It's my first live, and yeah, this is cool. So thanks to you for inviting me, and thanks for everybody who tuned in and had comments and questions.
Yes.
This is a really good experience. So I'm really grateful for you. My sister, my little sister from college, who I've gotten to see become a big sister and a mentor and somebody that is teaching people how to find their passion and purpose, is really beautiful. And I'm so excited for you and the rest of your chapters and the growth that you have ahead of you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, girl. I told you I have mascara on. You can't just, do me like that. You can't. Yeah. Great job. Like, thanks, Alicia. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you, Ebony. Thank you, Delisa. Like, we can go on for everybody. Thank you, Tiara, for chiming in. I really appreciate it. But I am not going to miss this moment to also invite you all to the My Secrets Purpose conference. It is in September here in St. Louis. It will be a wonderful experience, and this year we are focusing on self-care, balance, and business. We will have more conversation about friendships, hardships, relationships, and the business where you are the business, your roles and what you do and how you do it. And so I'm really excited. I can drop the link here in the comments soon. And it's just inviting you all to join us as well. And sis, I'll be in Baltimore next week.
Come on, come on. I'm excited.
So I'm
That'll
going
be
to see
fun.
you soon. All right, y'all.
Mhm.
Thank y'all so much. And, oh, I didn't even say the date of the conference. It's September 21st. So I'll
Okay.
drop information. I'm going to go ahead and end the live today. You all share away. Bye.
Bye.
I don't think that's your last live, though. I think you just getting started.
Oh.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.